Once upon a time, there was a man named Jed, a poor mountaineer who barely kept his family fed. He lived a simple life in a rugged landscape, far from the bustling noise of the city, until the hand of fate intervened one afternoon. On that particular day, Jed was out hunting for food, aiming his rifle with the precision of a woodsman who knew the value of every single shot. He pulled the trigger, but what followed was not merely the sound of a successful hunt. Up through the ground came a bubble and crude oil, that is, black gold.
Texas tea.
In what seemed like a single moment of luck, the first thing you know, old Jed was a millionaire. The news spread through the hills like wildfire, and the kinfolk gathered around, wide-eyed and full of advice. They told him that the life he knew was over and that a man of his means belonged in a different world. Jed, move away from there, they insisted with excitement. They told him that California was the place he ought to be, a land of sunshine and dreams. So, with their humble belongings packed high, they loaded up the truck and moved to Beverly Hills, that is. Swimming pools, movie stars, and a life they could never have imagined. Thus began the adventures of the Beverly Hillbillies in their new and glittering home. On a bright morning in their sprawling mansion, Jed stood on the porch, looking out over the manicured grounds. He turned to Granny, who was busy as always, and asked if she had seen anything of Duke. Granny replied that the dog had gone out front with Ellie to fetch the mail, though she wished they would hurry. She admitted she was expecting a letter from her sweetie back in Hootenville. Jed smiled, knowing exactly who she meant. Sam Drucker, he guessed. Granny confirmed it with a wink, calling Sam her fella. Jed teased her, asking if she kept him in the share yard, to which Granny playfully responded that it was where he belonged, calling Jed a sweet old rascal. It was clear that Granny and Sam were getting serious, and when Granny wondered if it was silly for someone her age, Jed assured her it was not at all, noting that he was no chicken himself. Suddenly, the air was filled with excitement as the mail arrived. "Granny, Granny, you got a letter from Hooterville," came the shout. Granny reached out, eager to have it, but was told it was coming with the rest of the mail by Pony Express. She urged the imaginary rider on, calling out for her letter. When the mail finally reached her hands, she complained that the postmaster was as slow as an 8. She took a deep breath of the envelope, remarking that it smelled mighty good, though not as good as Sam's letters usually did. There were other letters too, including one for Jethro from Billy Joe Bradley. Granny sniffed that one and noted it smelled better than Billy Joe's letter, but still lacked the magic of Sam's correspondence. Another letter arrived for Jethro from Bobby Joe Bradley, and Jethro eagerly gathered his mail. Granny, feeling a bit feisty, threatened Jethro, calling him a little goomare and demanding her letter before they played a game of cowboy and Indian where the Indian would surely win. Finally, she held the letter from Sam, that romantic devil. She confessed she was almost scared to sniff it. Jed took a whiff and remarked that it smelled like spare rib. Granny was delighted, claiming it proved Sam was a romantic devil. She recalled the last letter smelled like ham hocks and the one before that like pickled pig's feet. Jed joked that she should keep Sam's picture in a lard can, but Granny was too absorbed in the scent, which she claimed had gone beyond spare rib to a well-done sow belly. They sat down together, Granny convinced that this letter must contain a proposal. Jed, ever the voice of reason, cautioned her not to get her hopes too high, suggesting the fragrances might just be because Sam wrote on butcher paper. Granny wouldn't hear of it, insisting Sam knew exactly what he was doing and had stirred up the fires she thought were banked for good. She asked for privacy to read her love letter, but Jethro interrupted, boasting about his own letters from the beautiful Bradley girls who both promised to marry him. Jethro reasoned that since he was a big Hollywood producer, he was expected to have many wives. When told he couldn't have them at the same time, he simply decided they would have to take turns. Jed observed that Jethro married like he ate, always ready for a second helping. Granny finally began to read her letter aloud to Jed, warning him it might be a mite racy. She told him that if his blood pressure started to rise, he should just raise his hand and leave the room. The letter began with Sam hoping the whole family would come to Hooterville for Christmas. Granny was thrilled that he wanted all of her. She read about Sam saving sausage, skinning chitlins, and hanging ham, calling him a bold rascal. Jed pointed out that the word sugar probably belonged to the next line, making it sugar-cured ham. Granny grew frustrated and told him to read his own mail, though Jed was just trying to help. Granny decided then and there that they were going to Hooterville, and she told Jed to make the arrangements while she handled Sam. Jethro asked if Mr. Drysdale would take care of his critters like he did at Thanksgiving. They discussed the arrangements for the bear, Fairchild, with Granny suggesting he stay at Mr. Drysdale's place. However, Mr. Drysdale was less than enthusiastic about the idea, especially after seeing the damage the bear had done to his desk. To make matters worse, the bear had eaten Granny's precious letter. A chaotic scene ensued as they tried to get the bear to spit it out, with Granny even suggesting Jed reach down the bear's throat, an idea Jed firmly declined. Meanwhile, at the bank, Mr. Drysdale was in a sour mood. He complained to Miss Hathaway about his employees calling him Ebenezer Scrooge. Miss Hathaway pointed out that he didn't display much holiday spirit, despite giving them half a day off on Christmas. Mr. Drysdale defended his stinginess, refusing to commercialize the holiday. He was interrupted by Jed, who came to talk business. Jed thanked him for watching the animals, but then dropped the news that they were going back to Hooterville and wanted him to watch the bear again. Mr. Drysdale was horrified but felt he couldn't refuse his best customer. Back at the mansion, Granny and Jethro were attempting a primitive form of X-ray on the bear to recover the swallowed letter. Granny had a plan to use flash powder mixed with honey, hoping to light up the bear's insides so she could read the letter through his skin. The plan, predictably, went awry when Jethro accidentally set off the flash powder prematurely by sticking his tongue in a light socket. Covered in powder burns and missing some hair, Jethro decided he was finished with medical experiments. As the time for the trip approached, Jethro suddenly announced he wasn't going. He was terrified of being arrested in Hooterville for promising to marry both Bradley girls. He spoke of charges like bigamy, fraud, and a mysterious prolly-nolly dictum that Mr. Drysdale had mentioned. Terrified of the electric chair, Jethro decided to stay behind. Jed decided they would go anyway, with Miss Jane driving them to Hooterville while Jethro stayed with Mr. Drysdale to avoid the law. In Hooterville, Sam Drucker was busy at the post office when the Bradley girls arrived with more letters for Jethro. They confessed they were only playing a joke on him because he had lied about being a Hollywood producer. Sam hoped the joke wouldn't ruin Christmas for the Clampetts. Back in Beverly Hills, the family prepared to leave. Granny called Sam one last time to try and uncover the contents of the eaten letter. When she asked if he had popped the question, Sam confirmed he had asked them all to come for Christmas. Granny tried to hint at a wedding, but Sam was evasive, telling her they would talk when she arrived. As the Clampetts finally set off for their holiday adventure, they left Mr. Drysdale with the bear and a ticking gift from his employees. Mr. Drysdale, despite his grumbling, found himself alone with the animals, while the family headed toward a Christmas filled with the simple joys and honest emotions of their roots. The story concluded with a warm farewell to Jed and his kin, inviting everyone to return next week for more of their unique hospitality in Beverly Hills. Thus, the holiday season began with laughter, a bit of confusion, and the enduring bond of a family that never forgot where they came from.